Today I'm going to talk about how, despite the fact that the interactive community has been virtually absent in the conversation around sustainability, almost to the point of complicity, that actually it's precisely the interactive community that is going to take the greatest leadership role moving forward. The thing that we talk about mostly are environmental toxins and reduced biodiversity, corrupt public policy and chronic illness, natural disasters and climate change. These are sort of the things that you see in the news all the time. And what do they look like? This is a child that is sitting in the middle of one of these e-waste dumps in China, where at a rate of 133,000 computers a day and 100 million cell phones a year, these dumps get filled with toxic materials that children and mothers and fathers go through. Women are 6 times more likely to have miscarriages. People walk around with open cuts and rashes on their arms because it's so toxic. Water has to be brought into these places because the toxins are leached into the ground. And what was fascinating about these series of images is that they're of baby albatrosses taken on the Midway. And the Midway is a tiny little slither of land where albatross mate and have their babies. And what is so interesting about the finding of these babies, and nothing has been done to them, these are the carcasses with all these pieces of plastic, is that the mothers of these baby albatrosses were flying out all around the ocean, up to 100 miles out, to find food for their babies. And they actually mistook these pieces of plastic for food and fed those to their children. Why does a salad cost more than a Big Mac? It's because the USDA, the food triangle, supports one version of a recommendation, and then the government does something entirely different by subsidizing agriculture and dairy industries so that millions and millions of dollars because of lobbyists are going to to meat and dairy. And it is completely antithetical to what we need. And so what we have is an entirely out of control agricultural industry that buys 70% of the pharmaceuticals that are sold in the United States go into animals. You can just imagine the impact of that in soil and water and in our own bodies. I was utterly shocked and amazed reading about the burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are literally big gashes in the ground that are fueled with petroleum and other kind of combustibles. And they go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they throw everything in there from garbage to animal carcasses, to human waste, to amputated limbs, to Humvees, to medical waste. By bringing the creative community together, we could actually start to look at sustainability and environmental issues and social issues and cultural issues with an entirely different perspective, one that brought creativity and optimism to bear instead of doom and gloom, the kind of doom and gloom that paralyzes you. There's no one of us in this room or anywhere that can do anything that can make a real change by ourselves. Instead, we have to really depend on the collective and collective wisdom. The media still talks about sustainability in very green terms, very environmental terms. These are a smattering of different magazine covers. The Vanity Fair one was called the Eco Power Pinup. The Time Out one was this kind of competitive yuppie layout that was called the Eco Nakedness Pinup. And then Time magazine had a green cover where they were called the Eco Warriors. And it's all these kind of like really bizarre ways to talk about sustainability and environmental issues. I believe that it's the interactive community that's going to lead this movement next. It will require systems thinking, and the interactive community are the ones that have that innate kind of in their DNA way to think about systems problems. One rarely kind of looks over at adjacent industries or groups or teams to kind of see what knowledge they may have. There's no such thing as a side effect. Sometimes we arbitrarily paint what we're responsible for as designers or creators or strategists or developers. We paint it in this narrow way to give ourselves an excuse not to be responsible for what falls outside of that. What would happen if our purpose was oriented towards cultural sustainability instead of commerce? Or what if we used games to engage people in complex issues instead of dumbing things down? Or what if community strategy drove divergent thinking instead of groupthink? Or even what if social media was actually about social impact? I think that the interactive community is the connective tissue between all of these universes. And we have this potential to be the bridge across all of these. I want to leave you with this quote by the late Princeton architectural sociologist Bob Gutman, who wrote, "Every profession bears the responsibility to understand the circumstances that enable its existence." We all exist at the pleasure of a system, and that system is about culture and society and economy and the environment. That is our governing force. The interactive community has to be the leader in this. This is the time to make the change, to make the commitment. We don't have the luxury of deciding whether or not we're going to do this. And it's your turn. There's been a lot of movement, conspicuously absent. This is the time to do it. Thank you.